From the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago to number 23 on the PFT preseason power rankings. What idiot put them at number 23? Well, it was me, and somebody had to be number 23.
Yeah.
Look, Chris, I feel like the sun has set quickly.
I know you do.
On what the Rams put together, on what got the Rams to the Super Bowl, what got the Rams into a game where, frankly, if Jared Goff sees Brandon Cooks a little bit sooner and delivers the football accurately, and the Rams go up 7-3 late in the third quarter, they may have won the Super Bowl. 2 years in a row, NFC West quarterbacks with championship throws that don't make them, and Jared Goff making a ton of money. One of the reasons why they've had to shed some players to accommodate Jared Goff's gigantic cap number. There's a lot of changes.
There is.
This year for the Rams. Todd Gurley gone. Brandon Cooks gone. Eric Weddle gone. Clay Matthews gone. Dante Fowler gone.
Yeah.
Greg Zuerlein gone. Wade Phillips.
Corey Littleton, middle linebacker, gone.
Corey Littleton gone.
Yeah.
Wade Phillips gone. Wade Phillips, one of the main reasons why we had faith in Sean McVay taking over this Rams team and being completely focused on the offense. Remember his first year on the job when the defense was on the field?
Yeah.
He was sitting on a cooler.
Right.
Getting the plays ready for the next drive. He could hand the keys to Wade Phillips. Now Wade Phillips out of football. These are major changes for the Rams, who are going to look very different with these uniforms, and I'm not all that thrilled about. But the changes to the team, it puts more pressure on Sean McVay. And look, if you have more faith than I do in Jared Goff, you're not as concerned about these changes. I think you take Todd Gurley out of the mix, that offense is very different. You take Brandon Cooks out of the mix, that offense is very different. It's going to be a lot on Jared Goff this year, and I wonder if the organization realizes that.
Well, I think they do. I would think so. It was an underwhelming year last year for Jared Goff. I mean, the Rams are a fascinating team. They really are. And, Mike, I would say, it's probably the first team on your power rankings that I looked at and I went, ooh, I just think that's a little low. And I understand it, and maybe I'm wrong. So just hear me out here. Now, certainly, there's a lot of questions here. The team is kind of in this semi-rebuild. They're trying to retool without rebuilding, I guess we should say. Now, I think the first thing is the coaches that you hit on. Yes, McVay, the NFL caught up to his offense towards the end of that Super Bowl year, and it kind of carried into last year. And I think that's why you're seeing some, he made some changes there as far as some of the offensive minds around him. And I think he's going to have to, or hoping that he's going to reinvent. And I've heard that he is doing that. He's toying with a lot of different stuff to, put into his offense this year. So that'll be interesting because I do think they need to change up their personnel sets and what they do a little. Then on the field, you're right, there's a lot of moving pieces here, but I still look at this team and go, damn, there's still a lot of talented football players on it. Yeah, you lose Brandon Cooks, but still got Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, who are both 1,000-yard receivers, two pretty good tight ends. Offensive line, certainly a question mark, and we'll see because, that does affect Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not the best in a pocket with pressure around him, and he's not the most mobile guy either. And then have some difference makers on the defensive side, Mike. So that's where I'm torn between them because you're right. There's a lot of new pieces. There's an O-line that I'm not sure about, but then I start talking about defense and you start going Aaron Donald, Michael Brockers, Jalen Ramsey, Leonard Floyd. And you start going through some of the names and you go, damn, there's some players out there that can influence a game. So they are a very interesting team this year, and they're battle tough, and I don't know where it's going to go, but I guess I'm a little more hopeful than you are at this point, I guess is what I'm saying.
You mentioned Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, and there were two games that Brandon Cooks missed last year with the Rams after he suffered a concussion, I think against the Bengals in London. I want to go back and look more carefully at what the offense did without him on the field, because one of the reasons that Kupp and Woods may be doing so well is the presence of Brandon Cooks, who was summarily traded to the Houston Texans, part of their effort to replace DeAndre Hopkins. Chris, one of the reasons I put the Rams at number 23 is the division they're in.
Yeah,
you put the Rams in the NFC East, they're not 23. You put the Rams in the AFC South, they're not 23. But the Rams are stuck with the 49ers, and it seems like everybody wants to try to imitate the 49ers now, and it feels like that's what Sean McVay is at least going to do with his running game, where it's not going to go through one guy. They're going to have 3 or 4 guys who share the load. You've got the Seahawks. You've got the Cardinals, who I have pegged to make a jump this year. So somebody's getting left in the dust. And now look, we know injuries, COVID-19, all sorts of circumstances can affect this. But you look at 49ers, Seahawks, Cardinals, Rams, to me, the team most likely to be left in the dust is the Rams, and that's why they're at number 23.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that logic is stupid or anything like that. Yeah, I hear you. You're right. I'm going to put them third. I am too. I'm not going to put them fourth. I'm not going to put Arizona over the Los Angeles Rams yet. A team that was on the verge of the playoffs again last year, and like I said, been in some big, tough, physical football games, and I just have too much confidence in a Sean McVay. You know, in his career in L.A., there's only been one game where I felt like, man, his team kind of got overwhelmed and, you know, run out the gym, and that was that Baltimore game last year. I think that was on a Thursday night when the Ravens came out to L.A., or maybe it was a Monday night. But
what about the Buccaneers? What about when the Buccaneers just flat out torched them?
Well, yeah, early in the year, they were having a lot of issues. Yeah, they let up a lot of big plays, right? Jared Goff made a lot of big plays in that game, but had some bad turnovers early that put them in the hole and do those things. But, yeah, you know, listen, they had some moments last year, but at the same time, they were there in position to be in the playoffs come December, even though it wasn't the most impressive year we've seen. So I guess what I look at more than anything, and I just go, there's things to like. When you go, okay, McVay, kid genius, Luster's worn off a little, but damn, still a really damn awesome good coach. And then, you know, you talk about a stable of running backs that's unproven, but I think has some talent. We'll see. The receivers, tight ends, like we talked about, pretty good. And then you talk about a front seven on defense with a guy like Jalen Ramsey in the back end, and a Joe Johnson at safety, and I just look at him and go, man, there's some difference makers there. They can be a pain in the butt. They got some players who will be able to influence games just by their individual play, and that's where I think the Rams are intriguing. They got a very, you know, I don't know, Mike, what do you think? What's their ceiling? What's their ceiling for the Rams in your mind?
I would say that I don't think they can win the division. I think the 5 seed would be their ceiling if everything falls together. But even then, do you envision them boxing out either the 49ers or the Seahawks this year? Now, look, not everybody's going to be what they were last year. That's one of the hard parts when it comes to predicting what's going to happen in a given season. But I think it's going to be hard for them. They would have been the 7th seed last year if there had been a 7th seed. They came on strong late and gave the Vikings a run for the 6th seed. I think that I'll say 5 seed is their absolute best case scenario. I don't see them winning that division.
No.
So the 5 seed, second place in the division, top wild card in the NFC. I think that's their best hope this year.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you there. I think that's the way I look at it too. They could be an 11-5 5 seed or a 10-6 5 seed, something like that. You know, the floor, I don't look at that being too low either. You know, I don't know where you think there, but I mean, man, I'm gonna say 6-10, 7-9, something like that. But I do think you bring up a really interesting point too, Mike. You know, we always talk about the start of the schedule, and man, the Rams, with some of these moving pieces and maybe trying some new schemes and things like that, you got to go. You got the Cowboys to open up, and then you go to Philadelphia and to Buffalo, 2 East Coast trips. You know, that's going to tell us a lot about that team and where that season's going right after 3 weeks, really.
And the league doesn't want them to stay there in between. The league wants them to come back. So, you know, whether it's the 49ers, the Rams, any of these West Coast teams that had back-to-back road games and thought they were going to set up shop somewhere in the East Coast, that's not going to happen. Chris, here's the thing that benefits, though, the Rams. 4 games against the NFC East, 4 games against the AFC East. And we've talked about this before. With 3 wild card berths now, someday 4 teams from one division will make it to the playoffs.
Yeah.
And that's not an impossibility this year for the Rams, given their out-of-division schedule.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.